Traders. This is Tinted Trading, and today we're going to talk about our multiples. Now, this video is going to be short and it is quite introductory, so I want to go through this key concept in trading in order to help out the new guys in the server understand how we log trades and how we think about trades and how we think about risk in general. So I'm going to jump straight into it and go on with the basic definition. The R multiple, or R, represents your initial risk per unit. And it's important to make the distinguish that this is not your total risk in the position, because you might have multiple positions with some blended average buy price, which will really complicate things. So it's simply the initial risk per trade of stock or future contract or option contract per minimum investment unit. And I'm going to give you a few examples in order to make this practical to help you get your way around how to think about R's. So imagine you have the following trading plan. You buy a stock at 50, so that's here, and you decide that you're going to sell if it goes down to 40. So this is your trading plan. We advise that every time you enter a trade to know where is your stop loss level. So you never go into a trade without knowing where that level is. So in this case, you enter here at 50 and you say, if this low here is violated, the 40, I'm going to get out. So basically you're risking $10 from 50 to 40 per share, which is going to be your initial risk. Therefore, in this case, $10 represents your 1R. So we call this 1R, or 1 unit of risk. So 1 unit of risk is the stop loss level away from the buy price per share. If you buy 100 shares, your total risk is going to be $1,000, because you're going to have $10 per share risk times 100. However, the total risk is going to be 1,000, but your 1R stays the same, which is $10. Here's another example. Now imagine you buy a stock at $24 and you decide to sell it if it drops 25% away from the current price. This is a trading stop loss. So you don't know the exact amount by saying, hey, we're using a trading stop loss, and that's how we're going to do the level. And it's usually percentage away from the purchase price. What is your initial risk? In this case, we talk about 25% out of $24, which is $6 per share. So the initial risk when you enter the trade is $6. Therefore, $6 represent 1R. So it's pretty simple. This key concept is important for you to start thinking of your trading in terms of our multiples. And as we've pointed out on the board, all profits and losses should be related to your initial risks. And a good trading system is one that has losses which are less than 1R on average or in total, and profits which are bigger than 1R. And now I'm going to give you some more examples. So here is the first example. Now, this is a good example to show you how your losses can be greater than the planned maximum of 1R. Sometimes we get questions when we explain this in the room. People are saying, how can losses be more than 1R if that's your initial risk? Well, I'm going to show you how. So imagine you buy a stock at $40 per share and you plan to exit at 38. So in essence, your stop loss is $38. However, you keep it overnight and then the stock gaps down at $6 low at the open next day. And you get out as soon as possible at price of $31. So your loss in this case would be $9 per share. Remember, all of these we're talking about per share basis. So what is your realized R multiple result? I'm just going to give you a few seconds for you to think. As you can see, here is the answer. So initially, we planned that we're going to exit at $2 here, the $2 difference, and $2 represented 1R, one risk unit. However, because the stock gapped down and we got out at 31, in essence, from the 40 we bought, we sold at 31 and we had $9 per share loss. In that case, we take the 9 and we divide it by the initial $2 1R unit, and we get 4.5R realized loss. As you see, you only planned to lose maximum of $2 per share, but because the move capped against you overnight, you realized 4.5 higher times than this. And this is an example of bad trading. As I said, ideal systems should always aim to have the realized R less than 1. Now, just to give another example with another instrument, imagine you buy an option and here you buy it for 450 per contract, and then you decide to sell it if this option drops to $3. Now, again, similar scenario where the stock caps against you, it goes down overnight and the stock opens and the option is 150. Now you decide to hold because you have time. This is usually the general excuse for most traders to keep their options when they cap against them. And unfortunately, things don't work out um, in your favor and the option expires worthless. Now, what is your loss as our multiple? And again, I'm going to give you a few seconds to think and make sure that you can calculate this if you need some time. Make sure you write it down or pause and stop the video. As you can see, our 1R was 1.50. How did we get to 150? We take the 450, which was our buy price per contract, and we said that if it goes down to $3, we'll be out. In essence, we're willing to lose 150 per contract. In this case, this represented our 1R or one-third the value of the option. Because the option expired worthless, our total loss was actually 450 instead of 150. And in order to get the realized loss, we take 450, which was the total loss per contract, and we divide it by the 1R, which is 150. And voila, that's how we get 3R loss. Again, this is an example of bad trading or bad habits in that case. Now, you can use R's also to track total risk within a trade. As you see, sometimes it might be quite complex to keep track of risk per unit or profit per unit or loss per unit. This can vary between the different number of shares that you purchase. It can also vary if you average up. This can make tracking in R's quite difficult. And as a result, an easier way to determine the R multiple distribution of your trade is to use your total initial risk and total profit and loss after cost to determine our multiples. And again, I'm just going to show you an example. We assume that a trader has $100,000 trading account. He trades with a common methodology whereby he risks 1% from the total account value. So 1% from total account value per trade, or ROTE or ROTE stands for risk of total equity. So ROTE is 1%, which equates to absolute number of $1,000 per trade. Now, in the following example, he buys a stock at $40 per share and again plans to exit at $38. In essence, he buys 500 shares for this trade. Why does he buy 500 shares? Because in essence, he's risking $2 per share, and $2 times 500 equates to the $1,000 risk per total equity that he assigns every single trade. So here it is. Risk is $2 per share, or total risk is $1,000. 500 times 2. Now, unfortunately for this trader, the stock gaps down, as we explained before in the example, and he closes the position at $31. He opened it at 40 and he sold it at 31. Now, the realized loss is $9 per share. And with 500 shares, he actually lost $4,500 compared to the $1,000 that he initially planned to lose for this trade, which was the 1% of the total equity account. Now, initial total risk is $1,000. However, the realized total risk is $4,500, henceforth 4.5R. This way, we use the totals in order to get into the actual realized loss. Small disclaimer here, it's good to also incorporate commissions in order to be exact. Now, I'm just going to show you another system and we'll go over the last example whereby we can look at various trades and how they can be logged within an Excel spreadsheet. So for instance, here we talk about Apple, IBM, VAO, HRB, MOL, and SRA. And here are the number of shares that the trader bought, and here's the open price. Now, here is the total risk that he assigned to every single trade. So this is, in essence, this number here, the total risk that he assigns to every single trade. As you can see, the next column shows the profit and loss, which includes costs, so includes commissions. So in this case, in the first trade, we read it as following. The trader bought 400 shares of Apple at $23. He was planning to lose $1,000 for these 400 shares, but he realized $2,317 profit for this trade. Now, what are the R multiples here? The realized R multiples. And my suggestion here is that we pause the video now and try and get to some numbers, fill in the columns, and then within the next slide, I'm going to show you the exact results, and you can compare to see if you have understood how to calculate R multiples and realized R multiples. Now, here we go. We have the following trades. So pretty easy. We take the profit and loss column, in this case, 2,317, and we divide by total risk, which is $1,000 per trade, and we get 2.32 R. We do the same thing here, and we do it for the rest of the trades. On the bottom, we've added two new rows, the totals. So we look at the total P&L here, which is 4.39 R. And we also look at the total R multiple. So when we sum up all of these realized R results, we get 4.8 R total profit for these 6 trades. Now, the average is also quite important. We see that on average, the total risk that we have per trade is $850. The average win is $731, or this represents 0.81 R for these 6 trades. So we can just imagine that these represent a larger sample, and we can see that if this is a good enough sample for a trading system, we can just say that the trading system produces 81 R average R multiple for trading. Now, one question that we can ask here is what happens if we do not know this initial risk? What happens if we do not know how much we're going to trade? This can happen many times with options, whereby option traders are using technical stop losses rather than absolute dollar stop losses. And the best way to substitute this column, the total risk, is to use average loss over some good sample of your trading system. So in this case, we sum up these 3 losses and we find the average of them. And then we use that as a total risk number. This assumes that we're looking at lower than average loss in terms of the total risk. Now, when you're using total risk in determining your R multiple, there is the assumption that you're using the same factor to determine what your total risk will be. When this varies, like it did vary right here already, you are probably just as good and as accurate to using your average loss number as a total risk number. That would be advisable when there's big variability between your trades. In this case, in the system, it's okay to just use the current numbers. Now, on the next slide, I'll show you the expectancy formula, which looks at basically how to evaluate what you can expect from a trading system or from your trading system once you get a good number of trades under your belt. And here we talk about the average winner times the probability of a win minus the average loser times the probability of a loss divided by the average risk amount. Now, the average risk amount is this number here that we have looked at in the previous slide. Now, you can use those numbers, and if we take this system, for example, we can use it in order to find what the expectancy of the trade will be. However, there's a saying that if you torture numbers long enough, in essence, tell you exactly what you want to know or what you want them to say. And I'll just show you a practical example of how this is true when we talk about expectancy. Now, if we take this formula and plug in the numbers from here, so we calculate the average winner, we calculate the probability of a winner, the average loser, probability of a loser, and the average risk amount, we'll get this first average profit number of 1.16 or expectancy of 1.16. Now, you would see that this would vary quite a lot if we substitute this total risk number with the average loss as an average risk. So if we take the average loss out of this in this trade and we plug it in here to equate it to be all the same, we would see that the expectancy increases quite a lot. And this is a method that we suggest to be used when you do not know what your initial risk would be. So in that case, you would see that this is nearly double from the previous method. Now, the third way, which we advise and say is the most accurate, is when you use average or multiples, or we use this number here as an expectancy of 0.8. For the expectancy of our system, if we say that it's 0.81, or this means that we will make 0.81 times our risk on average when we look at the trading system over many trades. In fact, in 10 trades, we can expect the trading system to make 8.1 R. And in 100 trade, we can expect the trading system to make 81 R return. So that's important because when you know R and if that R is constant within your trading system, you can start getting to some numbers about how much payout you can expect out of a system if you make 100 trades. From then on, you can start looking at frequency. So how many trades does your trading system print? As you, some trading systems give out signals or qualified signals once per month. Others do it at 15 to 20. Others do it at 100 times a day. So it's really different depending on what your signals for entry and exit are. But when you have all those sorted and when you have some sort of a good sample size, you would be able to, in essence, estimate a good payout for that trading system that you're trading. So my question here is that what happens if you risk 1% of total equity? So risking 1% with 0.81R, after 100 trades, you can expect to make 1% times 100 times 0.81 or 81% profit from your account side. So if I tell you that on average, after 100 trades, you're expected to make a profit of 81%, is that enough for you to trade the system that I give you behind those numbers? Now think about that. Is this good enough proof for you to start putting your hard-earned money into the trading system that we recommend? Actually, it's not. And if you think critically, this is not the entire picture. So what else do you need in order to assess if this is a good system or not? And thinking critically is quite important in trading. Unfortunately, due to the massive spike in educators, people are actually showing misleading numbers like this, tricking newer traders or just misleading them. In essence, what you need additionally in order to understand if this is a good system or not is you have basically the result of the system, and this is 0.81, but you do not know what is the maximum or the minimum of the result and how different are they from the mean. In essence, all of this is summarized by two words, and these are standard deviation or variability of the results of the system. So if we know that this is the medium or the mean result, how variable are all the other results that we can achieve within this system? And here we can, for those that are statistically inclined, you would understand exactly what I mean. But if we talk about normal distribution, we know the middle line. But how big, how shallow, or how fat is the normal distribution, this is determined by the standard deviations. Hence, we need to know just as much the expectancy as the standard deviation in order to assess it. And how much do the results deviate from this average in order to see if it's good system. But this is easily done and there's another method of doing it, but this is a topic for another video. So with this, I conclude the fast lesson on our multiples. I hope this was informative and see you in the chat room.